Thanks for joining us. You're joining our YouTube channel today. You are watching the 8th movement of the 32 sword form. The 8th movement is the bird returns to the forest. So this movement is the counterbalance for probe the sea. We come through and we block, and then we are moving forward to strike with a thrust. The difference between this movement and the probe the sea, in probe the sea you saw the vertical blade and then you came back to the horizontal. This one, if you think in terms of what the name is, it kind of makes sense with this in that you are returning a bird to the forest. So this is an up cut instead of the down cut. It's not a probe vertical, it's a horizontal cut. So in this case it's piercing forward. So think in terms of maybe striking at the Adam's apple, below the throat here, and coming up through here or up to the eyes with this. And so the movement here lifts up and spears forward with the blade as opposed to probing down. So coming from here, we're going to just step forward, get a good stable base because you're going to then come up on that, and then you're reaching forward. And so think of the bird being on the end of the blade, lifting up and returning it to the tree. So here's your movement. So from here to here, from here to here. Same basic stance that we're doing. Almost all of the weight is on the right foot. The left foot comes in to block and cover. The palm of the foot faces the inside of the knee. So from here, step and thrust. Step and thrust. Sword hand also stays to go through the motion. Common mistakes with this is primarily around the blade angle. It's one of the reasons that we said this is a vertical angle. When this comes in, think of the bird being at the end of your sword. You're lifting it up and putting it up onto its nest. So if you're lifting it this way, the bird's going to have a tough time because this is the sharp side of the blade. So it's picking it up gently and placing it up there. That's the easiest way to remember how that one is. So your common mistakes would be turning it, twisting it, not thinking in terms of the bird being up there. You also want to lift up, not step forward. So the lifting up motion here cuts upwards, so you need to come up and through. So if you're thinking here, it comes through and goes up through. It is a piercing motion. Piercing motion. Other common mistakes, not directing the foot in the proper direction, keeping here, leaning too far forward. You're stable and you could stay here if you had to. And that's really where your balance will come into effect with this. You want to be able to be up on one foot, lift and hold. You also want to make sure that you're supporting the arm so you keep the roundness here. You're not extending too far out. You're not trying to counterbalance here. You're just lifting up and returning the bird to the forest. Application in this part is, remember, we've gone through and we've blocked out. So really now all I'm doing is, now that I've done the good block part, is I'm piercing up through. If she were a little taller, I'd be piercing up. Since she's a little shorter, maybe this one doesn't work quite as well. But here we're just piercing up and going through. And so if you think in terms of coming up and coming through, that's the motion that you want to be able to do with this. We've already blocked, moved it out of the way, and come through. So here's that roundness and back. Redirect it out and come back up through. And that's that motion. So the before and after for this one we've talked about here. You're coming through and blocking. You're coming up through and spearing. And then the next movement is going to be like a white crane spreads her wings type movement, where you're going to step back, block, and cut down. So you want to be comfortable with this backwards and forwards motion. You here, here, here is the next movement after this one, movement number 9. Follow along movement, starting from here. Thank you.